Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving deep into something that affects all of us, every single day. The incredible and honestly kind of surprising link between what's on our plate and what's going on in our head. We're going to explore how food literally shapes our mood, our focus, and even how well our brains age. You know those days, right, where you just feel off? Maybe you're stressed out, a little anxious, or your brain just feels like it's wading through fog. We've all been there. But what if the fix wasn't some complicated solution, but was actually hiding in plain sight, right on your dinner plate? Well, believe it or not, a whole mountain of research is pointing to a big, resounding yes. The food you eat is constantly having a conversation with your brain, changing its chemistry from one moment to the next. So the real question is, how does that conversation actually work?
Okay, let's start with the absolute basics, the building blocks. See, for our brain to feel good, it needs to be able to make the right chemicals. And to do that, it needs the right raw materials. And one of the most important ones out there is a little something called tryptophan.
Now, tryptophan is an essential amino acid, and that word essential is key. It means our bodies can't just whip it up on their own. We have to get it from the food we eat, mostly from plants. And its main gig, its most important job, it's the one ingredient our body needs to create serotonin. The whole process is the simple but super powerful chain reaction. It all starts when you eat something with tryptophan, say a banana. Your body gets to work and converts that tryptophan into serotonin, which you've probably heard called the feel-good neurotransmitter. And then that serotonin gets to work, helping to regulate your mood, ease depressive feelings, and just generally calm anxiety. It's a straight line from your food to your mood. But, it's not just about building the good stuff. It's also about protecting our brain from all the wear and tear of daily life. And that's where our brain's personal bodyguards come into play, antioxidants. So to understand what these bodyguards do, you first have to understand the bad guy, oxidative stress. The easiest way to think about it is like a kind of biological rust. It's this constant battle inside our bodies between these damaging things called free radicals and our antioxidant defenses. And when those free radicals start winning, they cause damage, and our brain is super vulnerable to it. And this really shows you the two sides of that battle, right? On the one hand, you've got oxidative stress, which is damaging cells, it's linked to cognitive decline, it's fueling inflammation. But on the other side, you have your antioxidant defenses, which are neutralizing those threats, protecting your brain, and cooling everything down. So where do we hire these bodyguards? You guessed it, our food. Berries are a perfect example. They are absolute antioxidant powerhouses, just jam-packed with compounds that have these amazing brain protective properties. And the impact of eating these protective foods is, well, it's staggering. A major study on a brain-focused diet found that the people who followed it most strictly cut their risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by 53%. Just let that sink in for a second. More than half the risk just gone. It's an incredible testament to the power of what we eat. Okay, so we've covered building good mood chemicals and protecting the brain. But there's this third, totally fascinating piece of the puzzle, the constant, non-stop conversation that's happening between your gut and your brain. It might sound a little strange, but your gut is often called your second brain, and for good reason. It's home to this huge, bustling ecosystem of bacteria, your microbiome. And these hundreds of different types of bacteria, they aren't just digesting your lunch. They are creating chemicals and sending signals straight up to your brain, influencing pretty much everything from your mood to your memory. So how do we support this super important communication channel? By feeding our gut microbiome the right stuff. And fermented foods are fantastic for this. Things like kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, and kefir, they all introduce beneficial bacteria, or probiotics, that really strengthen that gut-brain connection. And we're not talking about a small influence here. Research has tied this gut-brain connection to a huge range of functions: memory, thinking, anxiety, depression, basically our overall mental health and wellness. A healthy gut is truly fundamental to a healthy mind. All right, we've talked about tryptophan for building mood, antioxidants for protection, and the gut-brain axis for communication. So how do we actually put all of this into practice? Well, lucky for us, researchers have already created a fantastic blueprint, the Mind Diet. The Mind Diet is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, an eating plan designed specifically for your brain.
It basically cherry picks the absolute best, most brain protective parts of two other really healthy diets, the Mediterranean and the DASH diets, and combines them into one powerful strategy to help fight off cognitive decline. And what's great about this plan is that it's all about patterns, not about being perfect. It's about focusing on eating more of the good stuff, like leafy greens almost every day, nuts most days, berries a couple times a week. And at the same time, it guides us to limit the foods that we know are linked to brain inflammation, like red meat, sweets, and fried foods. It's a really clear, actionable roadmap. Lean protein is also a huge part of this. The diet suggests having poultry like chicken or turkey twice a week. And even more importantly, it emphasizes getting fatty fish like salmon in there at least once a week. And that's a big one, because salmon is loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which are crucial for building our brain cells and have really powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Now, while the Mind Diet is an amazing tool for us as adults, the story of brain health doesn't just start in adulthood. The actual foundation for a strong, resilient brain, well, that's built in the very, very first stages of life. And this brings us to a super important nutrient called choline. It is absolutely critical during pregnancy and in the first 1,000 days of a child's life. Why? Because it's a fundamental building block for the brain's structure. We're talking everything from cell membranes to neurotransmitters. It even acts as a protector against damage during this really sensitive period of development. Now here's the kicker. Studies show that up to 90%, that's 90, of pregnant women aren't getting enough choline. The best sources are things like eggs, liver, salmon, and soybeans. So making sure there's enough choline during this critical window is one of the most powerful things we can do for the brain health of the next generation. So let's just pull this all together. From the very beginning of life, our food helps build the foundation of our brain with nutrients like choline. And throughout our lives, it continues to protect our brain cells from damage and ensures our gut and brain can communicate effectively. Build, protect, communicate. Your food is literally a toolkit for lifelong mental wellness. And this incredible toolkit is right there for all of us, every single day, waiting on our plates. So the only real question left is, how are you going to use it? What's one brain-boosting food you'll add to your meals this week? Thanks so much for tuning in.